Shit, shittity shit, shit, shit. The weave on this jacket. It's German. That body there, the one with the Gruber dog tag. German uniform.
The guy with the Gruber dog tag might have been German, and this is shocking. Well, this is almost 30 minutes in, and it's the first bit of mind-bending stupidity this episode. This is Bonekickers, and you might be shocked to find out that it's not entirely incompetent this time. Episode 5, The Lines of War, otherwise known as the only one written by Tom McRae, is set in France. During the construction of a hypermarket, someone finds a British World War I tank. Now, unlike Episode 1, I'm not going to complain about this because A, it was found in the countryside, B, crap from World War I of varying sizes is still being found to this day, and C, it's not been there since the fucking Middle Ages. Anyway, they call Magweld and company in to do the excavation, for some reason that I'm not really sure about, and they do the typical wrong side of the road driving shtick, ha ha ha, although it could just be because Magweld's driving and she's seeing things again. Because he's remembered he's an alcoholic, Parton has brought a bunch of wine with him. Why? Because the dig is in France, and they will make damn sure that the audience can't forget that. But just to annoy the French, he's deliberately brought British wine, which does actually exist. So why are they there? Because the rules state that a British find needs a British team. Okay, sounds a bit silly to me. So the question now is it real life silly or is it made up for the episode silly? Benefit of the doubt, I'm going for real life silly. And why did they bring out Magweld and crew? They're in Bath, which is north of London, which isn't anywhere near France. And there are ongoing archaeological World War I sites in France and Belgium. They couldn't find anyone there? Or in London even, which is a big place, remember? Did they realise that these people have a history of criminal behaviour and destroying finds and not getting in trouble for it? Perhaps Senator Senator Joy became president and is pulling strings. Within seconds, Erga realises that it's not just a World War I tank, but it is THE prototype tank. First tank ever made.
Look at the exhaust duct and the round hatch. This is a prototype, only one of its kind.
He's such a boy.
Can you people find anything normal? Ever? So they start to open it up and...
Unless my ears deceive me, that's the sound a firing pin makes as it leaves a grenade. Go.
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
Turns out the charge had rotted, so no kaboom, but we have a nice bit of artificial excitement using the trailer. Even the makers knew that the only way people were going to tune in is if they thought Magweld was in danger of being blown up. So they do some looking and Parton waxes lyrical.
Yes, leave most atrocities 1,000 years and they become good fun. Vlad the Impaler, the massacre of the Christians in the Colosseum. But these men were our great-grandfathers, Viv. They're not ready to be part of history yet.
Very true and heartfelt, Mr. Writer of the episode. However, they are obviously ready to be exploited to make shit TV. Well done.
Burnt. Booby-trapped, buried. Why?
It looks like some sort of a mystery could be afoot. Will it be over by the end of the episode? Well, yeah, probably. So Viv professionally takes photos of the skeletons, and then her idiot personality takes over. And when I said professionally, I meant it really loosely. Half the photos she took had no flash, even though Magwild's using a torch. So Parton works out that the bodies were British by typically brilliant Bonekickers logic. He checks the food they found in the tank.
Marmite.
And that settles it.
Indeed. What other nation?
What other nation? And South Africa, New Zealand and Australia are quite fond of the stuff too. And apart from that, you found the Marmite in the tank. The British tank. The fact that you found it in the British tank does not confirm that the men were British. Admittedly, it's really stupid if the dead aren't British, but this is Bonekickers. Stupider things have happened. Nearly every episode. So a representative of the French government tells Magwell that a German team will be coming to join them, apparently because there might be dead Germans in the British tank. He makes it sound as though it's common practice for German teams to come when unidentified remains are found. Which is fair enough if it's a common practice, but why didn't the Germans arrive first? They're a lot fucking closer than Bath. True, when they found the tank, they didn't know there were remains inside, but it's a fair guess. Of course, logic dictates that any dead bodies found inside a British tank would be British, so they wouldn't need to call the Germans. However, they found bodies inside them and they've decided to call the Germans. This doesn't make sense.
France cannot be seen to be taking sides in this.
Well, that's pretty much what got you into trouble last time round. Oops, did I say that out loud?
You are on French soil. And we will not surrender that to the foreign bully who shouts the loudest. That we learned from the last time.
Hey, someone put Magwild in her place. French guy, I hereby dub you my favourite character. So literally seconds later, the German team arrives.
Becker!
Becker? Is that the divine Frau Becker?
Led by Becker, who is clearly meant to be the German equivalent of Magwild. Doubtless she's just come back from a trip to Cologne where she found Mozart's magic flute and then blew it up. Or possibly found and accidentally unleashed a golem. And notice how her team of archaeological slaves aren't even multi-ethnic like Magwild's. Will she prove to be saner than Magwild? Probably. It'd be pretty damn hard to be worse. So in the tank, Erga and Viv talk some stuff over.
It's a bullet.
How horrible.
What?
Someone fired a gun in this tank.
Wow, they found a bullet inside a tank. A bullet inside a tank. Such a thing has never been known to happen before. Viv automatically comes to the conclusion that someone stood at the top of the tank and executed the men inside, when she should have assumed that a lucky shot got through the armour. It was on the battlefield and a prototype after all. But no, she'll be proved right, because this is one of the moments that only an idiot can see the story's upcoming twists. So Parton thinks it was a German war crime.
Simply doesn't make sense.
Well, they're Germans. Doesn't have to make sense.
Oh,
Oh,
please.
Gregory.
Any country which chooses leather hot pants as a national dress does not operate within the accepted bounds of logic.
Okay, that's funny, and possibly true. Man, I wish I knew a German reviewer who could cameo here.
We don't hate all Germans. Just that one.
Magwell, you do not decide who everyone hates. Shut the fuck up, you loony bitch. So everyone knows that the site is becoming hectic. Possibly the French have set up a holiday camp. They can't all be archaeologists because Magwell doesn't let anyone near the site and only Becker complains. So Magwell thinks it's some sort of a race to find out what happened, claims that they have the edge because they are the only ones who have access to the bodies, and then bitches about the rest of the archaeologists being in it only for the glory. I swear you can almost smell the hypocrisy. So one of the bodies has a Cross of Lorraine tattoo. Who wants to bet that this is only here to be a clue to the big picture and doesn't actually make much sense in context? Mail me a pizza roll and I'll give you good odds. So Becker arrives again.
We should not see enemies where there are none. We both know that the past is too filled with bodies of enemies.
How much of a bad sign is it when the foreign, supposed to be unlikable, semi-villainous German with an all-white team counterpart to your main character manages to be the cuddly voice of reason? So they find bullet holes in the back of the heads of the bodies, showing that Viv was right. So then we have a flashback to the British soldiers and we see Burn Gorman of Torchwood playing one of them. Poor guy, Cyberwoman and then Bonekickers. It's extremely distracting to see Torchwood's resident working-class bisexual date rapist playing an upper-class straight-laced officer. They talk about a weapon that'll end the war and how it's nearby. Then someone kills a dog, and then Magwell's in a burning tent and being saved by a guy who just turned up. Obviously, the guy will be later revealed as the guy who set the fire and is trying to scare everyone away. He immediately begins trying to convince Magwell to give up. If this series had a history of competence, I'd suggest that him being obvious was deliberate. So they find the German dog tag on a body which was wearing a German uniform, and eventually they work out that the guy might have been German. They immediately jump to the conclusion that the British shot all of the men.
That would make it our war crime.
They have one confirmed dead British person and one dead German, and they immediately jump to the conclusion that the British were the villains. Why? I got nothing.
We could always try and pin it on the French.
Oh, big words from Mr. Those are our great-grandfathers. It's disrespectful to think of them as history, you twat. So there's another flashback, and the British soldiers find some Germans, and they're working together to end the war. One of the British soldiers doesn't know anything about the plan, but they brought him along anyway when they were committing treason because they needed the plan to fail somehow. So Magweld and all talk about the mysterious weapon that the British and the Germans were going to use to end the war overnight.
Now, Roberts claims these men were obsessed with finding a weapon which could end the war overnight.
Well, I can only think of one weapon that could end a war overnight. What, Hiroshima? Anyone?
Early nuclear development. That's not possible.
Yes, because that's never stopped you from coming up with shit, Magweld. So the talk gets interrupted by yelling, and everyone goes outside and sees this. Now, how did someone, the someone being that twat who saved Magweld from the fire, because he's obviously the bad guy, set that up without being seen? He was in the tent with Magweld and crew. So Becker has a minor meltdown.
But you still see us as monsters. You and the French. After all that time, I grew up apologizing for my nation even before I knew what I was apologizing for.
Miss Brandt? Yes? Get me a violin.
That's a little misplaced. I can understand that if it was a World War II site, as the Nazi shadow does loom large, but World War I? The Triple Entente was in no way the clear-cut good guys of World War I. Between this and the nuclear idea, I get the feeling that the makers thought there was one World War and a 30-year halftime in the middle. So right away, Parton returns to the tent and finds out that even though everyone was just outside the door, someone managed to get into their tent, destroy the place, steal everything else, and leave blackbirds.
What was that?
And Mastiff's there. Why is he there?
Enough is enough. It's over, Dr. Magwild.
Oh, that's why Mastiff's there, to announce their surrender to the dog-killing, tent-burning, body-stealing blackbird carriers. So without their evidence, they use the Cross of Lorraine tattoo to work out that all the men were obsessed with Joan of Arc, and then we get a flashback showing off that all the men have identical tattoos, because that's just silly. The weapon they were looking for was actually the body of Joan of Arc, which they wanted to use as a symbol of the ancient friendship between France and Germany, back when they both hated England, even though I'm pretty sure Germany wasn't actually a country back then. They hope the symbol will convince the French and Germans to make peace. Okay, I can see why the French and the Germans might be for this, but the British? If anything, it'd encourage the Germans and the French to team up against the British. Good work, guys, you ended the war, and started another, and now you're behind enemy lines. So then, using very questionable logic, they find a book with all the info they could possibly need, hidden by one of the guys in the tank.
What a stroke of luck!
So using the book, they go looking for the resting place of Joan of Arc.
There's nothing here, Julian. The map must be out.
Ben? Ben?
So then in the flashback, the British and Germans find Joan, dressed in some sort of a gown. Wow, that'll piss her off. She was burned alive for refusing to wear woman's clothing.
The French will be inspired. They'll surrender.
And here I thought that the French being only good at surrendering thing dated from World War II. Funny, as historically the French were one of the greatest military powers in Europe. So then the guy who's not into Joan, that they brought along for no reason at all, gives a speech about how this will only result in the Germans ruling the world or something, and suddenly the British guy played by Owen from Torchwood decides to turn against the guy that he was happy to commit treason alongside.
Turn around and face them all with your hands on your heads.
And then the German manages to fold his metal dog tags and swallow it, which seems a little unlikely, and did they have dog tags back then? I have no idea, because I deliberately don't do research for these reviews, because I like to show off that I know more about history than the TV show, its writers, and its research staff. And then the Germans are shot dead, and Magweld and all make it into the room. They find Joan, and then the guy who I've been saying is the baddie since he first appeared has followed them and reveals that he is in fact the baddie. He gives the villain speech where he connects his reasons for doing this with Iraq because of topical, and then he has them stand against the wall in a mirror of what just happened to the Germans. But alas, he doesn't kill them. The guy stole Joan's body and the book to add to his collection of stolen stuff so that no one can reveal what happened. Which is stupid, because if the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail and the Da Vinci Code and all those things have proven anything, it's that you can make a hell of a lot of money in detention off a story that has no evidence. So the bodies are put into the tank and the guy shoots the others, including Owen from Torchwood. Insert your own Owen from Torchwood getting shot dead and then resurrecting joke here. So just so we get the whole plan, the guy executes a bunch of Germans and British by shooting them in the back of the head when he could shoot them in the chest and make it look like they died in battle. He could put them together in the countryside and make it look like they killed each other. Germany and Britain are at war after all. But no, he puts the bodies into a several-ton metal box that's nearly a story high that the government will really want to find, seeing that it's their prototype tank. He then sets the bodies alight, sets up a booby trap, and spends the next few days by himself burying it in the middle of a winter with hard frozen ground near the enemy front lines. Wow, that's classic Bonekickers. At least they went out of their way to say that the guy was insane.
He survived. Mostly in a loony bin.
Don't call them that.
So they're not shot, and they return to the dig site, and we get what would have been the last line of the show if this had been a sitcom.
I think I know where we may find evidence that may tell us where Joan of Arc may have been buried.
This is bad comedy.
So with the episode nearly over, they reveal that Viv is either the adoptive daughter of Magwild's mum or the birth daughter of Magwild's mum. They are really not clear about this. Bonekickers, please make your pointless and shocking twists plain so I can at least work out what they are. Thank you. This is hands down the best episode of the show. If this guy had written the whole series, this review show would not exist because it would just be another crap but unmemorable series. What a difference it is to have an episode where Magwild gets called out for being a cunt, where they lose, and most importantly, the writer was not functionally retarded. That was Bonekickers. You weren't warned this time, but I'm not changing my tagline.
I found the greatest archaeological find this country's ever known.
We found a table.
It means Arthur.
Sorry! You're all out on a limb.
An 84 Pomerol, lucky chap.
The dark is coming. Let it go.
What am I doing?
To the yard!
I'm sorry!
You've endangered the great quest that will change this country forever.
Don't mess with me, I'm an archaeologist.